Have you ever stopped to think about what it actually means to do something together? I mean, really think about it. It sounds so simple, right? But it turns out it's one of the most fascinating puzzles in philosophy. Today, we're going to dive deep into the science of we. So here's the game plan. We're going to start with this big question, the puzzle of us. Then we'll see that the answer really starts with intention. From there, we'll figure out how we connect minds and plans, which leads to the really mind-bending part, when the group thinks. And finally, we'll bring it all home and see why acting together matters so much.
All right, let's jump right in. What is that special sauce, that secret ingredient that takes a bunch of separate people and turns them into a real, unified we?
I mean, this is the whole puzzle, isn't it? If you see a bunch of people running down the street, are they a team? Are they acting together? Well, maybe, or maybe not. It all depends, and that's where things get really, really interesting.
This example from the philosopher John Searle just nails it. Okay, on one side you've got a bunch of picnickers. A storm rolls in, and they all run for cover. They're all doing the same thing, sure, but each person's goal is purely individual. I need to get out of the rain. Any coordination is just an accident. Now, look at the dancers. Their goal isn't individual, it's a shared performance. Their action is a true, unified we. See, the difference isn't what their bodies are doing, it's what's going on in their heads. It's all about the why.
And that's our first big clue. The key to this whole puzzle isn't something you can see on the outside. Nope. It's all about what's happening inside our minds. That secret ingredient? It's intention. And philosophers have a special name for this, a we intention. This is a huge mental shift. When you're truly part of a team, you're not just thinking, okay, I'm doing my little piece of the puzzle. You're thinking, we are building this puzzle. It seems like a tiny change in wording, but that little distinction is the bedrock of every single shared action. But, philosophers love to debate. So the big question is, what is a we intention? One camp, let's call it the reductive view, says you can build it from I thoughts. It's like a recipe. Take one part, I intend to do my part, add a dash of I believe you'll do your part, mix in some other beliefs, and boom, you get a we. But the other side, the primitive view, says, no way. A we intention is a totally unique kind of thought. It's a prime ingredient you can't break down any further. Searle really captures this feeling when he talks about pushing a stalled car. You're not just some person pushing a thing who happens to be next to another person pushing a thing. You see your own effort as being just one piece of a bigger single event, our pushing. Your push only really makes sense when you see it as part of that we.
Okay, so having this we intention is a great start, but it's not the whole story. For a group to really truly act together, all of our minds and all of our plans have to connect in just the right way. So how on earth does that happen?
Well, Michael Bratman gives us a brilliant framework. It's not enough for both of us to think, hey, let's paint this house together. I mean, what if my plan is to paint it bright green and your plan is to paint it neon purple? That's not a team. That's just a mess. The real magic, the key, is that third step. We both have to intend for our little individual plans to mesh together, to fit into one coherent working plan. And there's another crucial piece to this puzzle, and it comes from the philosopher Margaret Gilbert. She points out that when we agree to act together, we create something new between us, a special web of mutual obligations. We're not just coordinating anymore, we're actually committed to each other. We're kind of on the hook. Her example of just walking together makes this so perfectly clear. Imagine you and I decide to take a walk together. If I suddenly start sprinting and leave you in the dust, you have every right to yell, hey, what are you doing? I thought we were walking together. You are literally entitled to call me out on it. You wouldn't do that to a random stranger on the street, right? That feeling of entitlement, that right to complain, it's a special bond that we created the moment we formed that we. So we have these internal we intentions, and we have these external bonds of mutual obligation. Put them together, and you get a pretty solid we. But what happens when that we, with its own rules and procedures, starts to take on a life of its own? Let's take this idea to its most mind-blowing conclusion. Can a group actually become an agent, an entity that thinks and decides for itself? Just let that sink in for a second. It sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? How could a group possibly decide to do something that every single person in that group thinks is a bad idea? Well, believe it or not, it's not just possible. It happens. Welcome to what's called the discursive dilemma. Here's the setup. We've got a team of 3 people, and they have to decide whether or not to take a train trip. Now, the group has a rule. To approve the trip, they must get a majority yes on 3 separate questions. Is it safe? Is it quick? And is it scenic?
If even one of those fails, the whole thing is a no-go.
Okay, now look at this table closely. First, let's just look at the individuals. Member A says no to the trip because it's not quick enough. Member B says no because it's not safe. And Member C says no because it's not scenic. So you can see in that last column, individually, every single one of them concludes no. But here's where it gets wild. What if the group votes on each reason one by one? Let's go down the columns. For safe enough, you've got 2 yes votes. The group says yes. For quick enough, again, 2 yes votes. The group says yes. And for scenic enough, you guessed it, 2 yes votes again. The group says yes. So the group, following its own rational rules, has concluded the trip is safe, quick, and scenic. And what does that mean? The group's logical conclusion is, yes, we're taking the train. This is absolutely amazing. The group, as its own entity, has reached a perfectly rational conclusion that every single member personally rejects. It's almost like the group has a mind of its own.
Now, that was a wild thought experiment, but this isn't just some abstract philosophical party trick. Understanding the mechanics of we has huge real-world consequences for how we build our society. I mean, think about it. How does a court decide if a corporation, a we, is responsible for a crime? How do we build effective teams at work? What makes a government legitimate in the eyes of we the people? It all comes back to understanding how a bunch of I's can transform into a collective we. It's the very fabric of our social lives. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're in a meeting, or playing on a sports team, or even just making dinner with a friend, try to see it. Try to spot that invisible architecture that's holding you all together. What are those shared intentions? What are those little obligations you have to each other? Because once you start seeing it, I promise you, you will never look at being part of a group the same way again.